The two leave the sheriff's office, turn the corner, and enter the town square, where a small ice cream parlor sets on the corner of the square. The heat of the day is instantly broken by a cold chill as the young man comes within view of the tree. It stands a bleak sentinel, a stark reminder of all that is unholy, an antebellum horror. It graces the center of the freshly mowed lawn on the town's square, nearly imperceptible. Dangling from the limb of a large branch unnoticed by Miss Hazel, young Perkins can plainly see the freshly cut end of a hemp rope. The whites of the town are quite unconcerned as they go about their daily business, walking to and fro. Children skip across the lawn, passing under the tree, traveling to and fro, each one greeting one another with a warm good morning, gliding back and forth like fish in an ocean of white privilege. The sudden sight of the tree takes young Perkins' appetite. Like the sheriff, he can feel its hunger. "I don't know about this," the young man giving voice to his misgivings. "Maybe we shouldn't." "Oh, hush now." She cut him off. "It's a hot day. You like ice cream. Let's not let today be a total waste. I don't know about you, but I want some ice cream." Young Perkins and the widow find themselves standing in front of the ice cream parlor. At the front of the window, a small notice reads, "Whites only. Colored service at the rear." The two walk to the side of the parlor. Raising her hand, she holds a string which dangled from a small bell. Flashing young Perkins a playful wink, the widow pulls the string, announcing their presence. After a moment, an elderly white soda jerk appears at the small window. "What can I do for y'all?" he asks. "2 ice cream cones, if you please," says the widow cheerfully. "What flavor y'all want?" inquires the old man. Miss Hazel looks down at young Perkins. "What flavor would you like?" Young Perkins' mind is still fixed on the tree. It is still in his peripheral vision, calling to him, summoning him, hungering for his blood. "Oh, any flavor will do." Miss Hazel persists. "How about strawberry?" Young Perkins. "Yes, ma'am," not fully hearing her. He continues to stare at the tree. "I'll have vanilla." After a brief interlude, the elderly clerk appears at the small window with 2 ice cream cones, 1 strawberry, the other vanilla. "That'll be a dime," states the old man. "That's fine." The widow cheerfully agrees as she opens a small beaded hand purse. She then places a dime on the counter, whereupon the elderly man vanishes into the darkness of the cool ice cream parlor. Inside, other whites sit at the tables and counters. Some sip their root beer floats, others eat banana splits. All the while, Miss Hazel, fully enjoying herself, licks the tip of her frozen delight. Lovely lips part. Her tongue extends in an almost sensual manner as she calmly licks the cool, milky ice cream from the tip of the cone. In doing so, the lovely widow unconsciously emits an audible "mmm" as she savors the flavor. "How is your ice cream?" she asks young Perkins, who had yet to taste his. His mind, his every nerve on edge. His eyes remain fixed on the bleak, distorted, colorless tree, which seems to watch them. The insects that had become embedded in the sap-like resin of the tree gives every appearance of something grotesque. Wishing to exit the square as soon as possible, young Perkins takes a quick taste of the ice cream. "Yes, it's good, ma'am," replies the youth, who then takes Miss Hazel by the hand and leads her from the town square. Passing down the street, their every move is under constant observation by the various residents of the town. Each little shop displays a notice reading, "Whites only." Meanwhile, the so-called liberal shop owners' signs note, "Negro service in the rear." Young Perkins hurriedly finishes his ice cream. My, how you like ice cream. Her display of kindness completely misinterpreted. Young Perkins' only thought was to make the wagon for the return trip. He had no wish to stay in Musky any longer than absolutely necessary. The widow Hazel continues slowly walking, enjoying the day, her mind still on the pastor's interaction with the sheriff. They soon near the pool hall where Jubal remains busily shining the shoes of yet another customer. "Mornin', Jubal," the young widow cheerfully announces. The poor broken man replies with a simple "morning," whereupon he continues at his work, shining the shoes of one of the young toughs. Outside the pool hall sits the patrol car where the deputy is involved in a conversation with two of the young ne'er-do-wells. The deputy casually reclines on the hood of the patrol car, his lustful eyes hungrily examining the young widow's frame as they pass by. Their conversation ceases as the two continue walking by. "Looky, looky, boys. Take a gander at that there negra gal." One of the young ruffians gives a lustful whistle, accompanied with a my. The young ruffians then begin speaking in lurid sexual terminology. Young Perkins firmly grips tightly to the young widow, who ignores the vulgar remarks. If I had a machine gun, the young man thinks to himself. He, imagining himself producing a Thompson submachine gun, at which the young thugs instantly cower in fear. Take that, he declares, as he unleashes a torrent of rapid fire. Their bodies jerk and twitch, performing the dance of death, as a steady stream of hot lead rip into their flesh. Young Perkins and Miss Hazel remain silent as they make their way to the ice house, whereupon they find the wagon gone. It appears that Pastor Jackson, in his anger, had forgotten about young widow Hazel and himself. Whatever excuse the pastor gave Mr. Grimes was uncertain to the two. All that they knew is that they were alone on the outskirts of Musky and had a long, hot journey ahead of them. The young widow looks down at young Perkins and states her concerns. "You don't have to worry about Silas. I'm sure the word will get around." "I don't know about Pastor Jackson," young Perkins responds, all the while burying the truth within his heart. "I don't rightly know why he behaved that way." "Neither do I," agrees the young widow, as they exited the town limits, passing the cautionary sign of warning. Her ice cream cone finished. "My, that was refreshing," sighs the widow. "I think when I get home I'm going to take me a nice long bath. When I'm finished, you can take one too, little man," she says as she pinches his cheek. "There's nothing like a nice warm bath on a hot day. But I suspect you probably want to see your grandma. She hasn't seen you for quite a spell. I know you hate to go over there because of that there, Silas, but the choice is up to you. Maybe I'll invite them over for dinner. Don't forget tomorrow's Sunday. After church, we'll all have a nice dinner. How about that? Would you like that?" questions the young widow with a smile. "That'll be just fine," young Perkins replies. She then turns to the young man. Her tone changes to one of serious concern. "You really? Do you really think that Jonah is safe? Is he really in juvenile hall in the next county?" Young Perkins is taken aback by the widow's perceptive observation. "Well, Pastor Jackson would tell us if it was true or not. Wouldn't he?" Young Perkins innocently questioning, all the while impressed by her keen sensitivity. The two continue in idle banter. As they reach the crossroads, an automobile engine is heard. It is the sheriff's patrol car. The deputy behind the wheel is accompanied by three of the young thugs who had vented their vulgarities earlier in front of the pool hall. The automobile slowly shadows Miss Hazel and young Perkins. They look back instinctively. Their gaze is met by the eyes of the deputy and his cronies. Each face, bestial, ravenous, their hungry eyes revealing expressions of a loathsome, lurid, lascivious, depraved debauchery. Miss Hazel. The young man voices his uneasiness with mounting alarm. Just ignore them, little man, believe me. They ain't coming into Colored Town. Sure enough, the patrol car stops, makes a U-turn, and heads back in the direction of town. Turning to young Perkins, she gives him a confident smile. You don't have to worry about trash like that. They're all talk and no action. Cowards, every one of them. Nothing but cowards. I tell you what, I'll go on home and take my bath, and you go up to see your grandma. Tell them we already spoke to the pastor. He probably already told them that their boy is okay. Jonah's fine. Tell them what the pastor told us. Young Perkins stops and looks at the widow with concern, unsure whether or not to leave her alone in the road. Go ahead on, she reassures the young man. I'll be just fine. Whereupon, young Perkins smiles and begins ambling toward his cousin's home, anxious to see his grandmother, but not so much Bessie May or Silas. Skipping down the country road, young Perkins' heart is turned to that of his grandmother. All the while his mind reflects on the looks on the faces of the deputy and his sick-minded sycophants. The day's waning sun reflects the passing of an hour as young Perkins reaches the door of his aunt's house, calling out, "Grandma." The young man runs to the front door, not bothering to knock. He opens the door. His eyes at last fall upon that of his grandmother, who is seated on the couch, Bible in hand, reading from the book of Proverbs. Upon seeing the young man, her face is alight with joy. "My lord, how's Grandma's baby?" Young Perkins bursts into tears and rushes forward. Dropping to his knees, he wraps his arms around his grandmother's shoulders. "Grandma, Grandma." Unable to speak, his deep emotions render him mute. Through groans, through a broken heart, through a well of the bitterest of sorrow, young Perkins releases a torrent of tears, unburdening his pent-up emotions. Hearing the commotion, Bessie May appears from the kitchen. Smiling, she informed young Perkins that Pastor Jackson had just left. She smilingly informed them that Jonah is in fact safe and is serving time at the juvenile detention center in the next county. Her trusting confidence in the pastor's lies sends young Perkins into a deeper fit of weeping. How badly he wishes to reveal the truth. How badly he wishes to unburden his soul. Young Perkins burns to reveal the true blood of the sheriff. The mind-bending tension punishes young Perkins, lashing him with a red-hot cord as he ponders the pastor. Pastor Jackson, the very man that the town's colored folks had put so much trust in, so much faith in. He and the sheriff were of the same blood. They had been born of the same mother. Young Perkins' heart bled for Bessie May, even for someone as loathsome as poor Silas. His heart harbored a certain sadness, for he knew sooner or later the pastor would have to reveal the truth. Young Perkins anticipated that after the passage of the week or so, the pastor would come with hat in hand and explain to the two that Jonah had suddenly taken ill. Young Perkins was disgusted to know that the pastor would return in like manner and reveal the passing of young Jonah from some sort of malady, perhaps pneumonia, all the while knowing the truth. Jonah had fallen prey to the mob. He had been tortured, mutilated, presented as sacrifice to the thing that hungered in the town square. His agony, his blood, feeding its roots, its limbs, its every branch, glutted. Now, baby, calm down now. His grandmother's soothing voice eases young Perkins. Like a heavenly balm, the young man finds his soul at peace. Young Perkins rests his head in his grandmother's lap, lost in a tranquil moment of bliss. But only briefly, Bessie May disturbs his moment of solace by informing him that the pastor wants him to be baptized the next day, immediately after church. Her words causes young Perkins to reflect on the pastor's earlier conversation with the sheriff's accusatory tone reminding his brother of the necessity of the performance of the baptismal act. Faith assured by merely immersing one in water and mumbling a few antiquated verses from an antiquated book, a book that had often, too often, been deemed simply unnecessary. Most disregarded it, while others chose to pick and choose certain verses as an excuse to chastise, enslave, condemn, and abuse. It had no real power. Every Sunday, when so-called men of God would open it and read from its passages, they spoke of deeds done long ago, congregations which shout out praises of miracles, the likes of which hadn't been performed for well over a millennia. Kevin hadn't been baptized, yet no harm had come to him. Surely Silas hadn't been baptized, and yet again no ill had befallen him. Curious? Curious. Like a jigsaw puzzle, young Perkins attempts to connect the missing pieces. The conjure woman, old Granny Hagen, her shadow. He remembered now. Jonah had attempted to elude Silas and had tripped and fallen in the center of the road, right at the old woman's feet. He had been. What was it? One of the women yelled. Yes. The young man snaps his finger as he remembered. Yes. She said, "My lord, he's been overshadowed." The mystery of the conjure woman's dark powers resided somewhere in her shadow, and falling beneath her, Jonah had been at that moment damned, doomed by the shadow of death. Who was Granny Hagen? Who was this conjurer woman that everyone feared? Young Perkins recalled the old folks talking about a woman in Louisiana. She too walked with a cane, but instead of a black cat, she was accompanied by a large black hound, a hound called Dagon. The old colored folks mentioned her powers being as formidable as that of the conjure woman. It was his understanding that even wealthy whites came to respect the Louisiana witch, as she was known. The wealthiest members of the landed gentry deemed it necessary to present offers of worship and obeyance in order to be granted a favor. Whether a curse or a blessing, if the black hound, Dagon, was the familiar of the Louisiana witch, so then was her cat, Satan, or Nigger Man, as called by some, the familiar of the old conjure woman. The Louisiana witch and the conjure woman were also aided by the use of a gnarled, old, twisted walking stick. Were they members of the same coven? The sudden revelation dawned like the morning sun as young Perkins came to the realization that they both walked with the use of a walking stick. Not machine-made, but fashioned from the branch of a tree. Not just any tree, but the tree. The thick, dark, coated resin of the twisted branches of the tree were exactly the same as the walking stick used by the conjure woman. All knew where the conjure woman resided, in an old shack near the edge of the swamp. None but the desperate, the very desperate, dared visit. Perhaps on rare occasions a young mother, whose child is sick with a fever, on the verge of death, would find herself at the old conjure woman's door, begging for a potion of restoration, or a lover spurned would seek her aid to avenge a broken heart. Hell hath no fury. For all who knew the old conjure woman knew that she exacted a price, a payment not in coin but in blood. If one wished for the conjure woman to perform her magic, they would have to sign a parchment in blood. Whereupon the seeker would be required to perform whatever act the conjure woman deemed necessary at that time. Some would find the price too high and flee from the shack, only to become lost in the swamp, where perhaps a hunter would, after days, weeks, even months later, stumble upon the bloated corpse. Young Perkins was determined to discover the conjure woman's secret, perhaps steal the cane. and thus by doing so, render her powerless, her shadow becoming inert. But to do this, he would need an ally. He would talk Kevin's mother into allowing him to be baptized that Sunday after service, along with himself. Not wishing to leave his grandmother, young Perkins is caught in a quandary, wishing to remain for dinner or return to the widow. Longing for the taste of his grandmother's home cooking, the young man finds his primary objective is the safety of young widow, she being alone in the house. His stomach begins to churn. His face forms a grimace. A cold chill slowly creeps up his spine as he reflects on the heated, animalistic expressions on the faces of the deputy and his pack of
Okay, so let's unpack this. Today, we're doing a deep dive into some really powerful and, frankly, deeply unsettling excerpts from a work called The Shadow of the Sentinel.
It really is. It doesn't just, place you in a historical setting. It throws you head first into this psychological nightmare that's built right on top of it.
A fusion of Southern Gothic and folk horror, really.
Exactly. And our mission today is to dissect how the author uses that setting, the segregated South and this element of conjure magic, to create this constant, immediate sense of terror for our protagonists, young Perkins and Miss Hazel.
We're not just looking at the plot. We're looking at how the text makes something as simple as buying an ice cream feel like a life-or-death situation.
It all starts in this town square, musky, it's hot, it's oppressive.
And you get this immediate sense of a facade, right? People are saying warm good morning, everything on the surface seems civil, but the text just rips that away. It says they're all gliding back and forth like fish in an ocean of white privilege. The fear is it's the atmosphere, it's everywhere. And that atmosphere is anchored by one central object of dread.
The tree.
The tree. It's described as a bleak sentinel, an antebellum horror, just standing there watching.
And this is where it gets really chilling. The white townspeople are completely, unconcerned by it. It's just part of the scenery for them.
But Perkins sees something, a detail that's almost imperceptible.
What does he see?
The freshly cut end of a hemp rope, just hanging there from a limb. It's subtle, but it's screaming.
And that one tiny detail changes everything, doesn't it? The tree is no longer just a symbol, it's an instrument, ready to be used. The author even gives it agency.
Right. Perkins feels its hunger. He believes it's summoning him, hungering for his blood.
It's an amazing way to anthropomorphize structural violence. It's not just a racist system. It's a living, breathing monster that wants to feed on you.
And then there's that grotesque detail about the insects.
Oh.
They're embedded in the tree's sap-like resin. It suggests this thing is sticky, it consumes, it's constantly feeding.
And what's so brilliant is how the narrative immediately slams that supernatural dread right up against the most mundane daily indignity.
Segregation.
They need to buy ice cream. But of course they can't use the front door. They have to go around back, past the whites-only colored service at the rear sign.
And you see Mrs. Hazel trying so hard to create this little bubble of normalcy.
She is. She gets her vanilla cone, licks it, lets out this big of pleasure.
It's an act of defiance almost. Trying to find a moment of joy with this simple treat. 2 cones for a dime.
But Perkins can't join her in that moment. He's paralyzed. The text says his mind is just fixed on the tree. The fear of that rope completely overshadows any relief the ice cream could offer.
And as they walk, the surveillance is constant. Every shop has a sign, whites only, Negro service in the rear. They are being watched, their movements are policed at all times.
So as they leave the square, the threat level just, it ratchets up immediately. You go from the quiet menace of the signs to a direct physical threat.
They pass the pool hall. They see Jubal, the shoeshine man,
Yeah.
who the text calls a poor broken man,
That's when they appear.
the deputy. And he's with these young ruffians, just leaning against the patrol car.
The description is just predatory. It says his lustful eyes hungrily examine the young widow's frame. There's no subtlety there.
None at all. And the ruffians, they just follow his lead. A lustful whistle, lurid sexual terminology. It's open verbal harassment.
And Mrs. Hazel has to perform this incredible act of strength. She grips Perkins' hand, forces herself to ignore it, all to protect the boy.
But Perkins, I mean, he can't just absorb it. He's powerless externally, so he retreats inward.
Into that fantasy.
Yeah, that brutal fantasy. He imagines pulling out a Thompson submachine gun and just letting loose, making them do the dance of death. It's a psychological defense, a way to reclaim some power.
It's the only way he can fight back in that moment. But then, right after that verbal assault, their situation gets even worse.
They get to the ice house and realize they've been left behind.
Pastor Jackson is gone. The wagon is gone. They're stranded alone outside the town limits. It's incredibly vulnerable.
And Ms. Hazel tries again to be the rock. She's finishing her ice cream, talking about dinner, a warm bath, trying to project safety.
But that safety is an illusion because they hear the engine.
The sheriff's patrol car.
Yeah.
And the deputy is driving, with 3 of those same ruffians packed inside.
And it just starts to slowly shadow them, creeping along behind them on this empty road. It's pure psychological torture.
Then you get this close-up of their faces in the car. The text calls them bestial, ravenous.
It's an unmasking, isn't it? The thin veneer of civility is gone, and you see this loathsome, lurid, lascivious, depraved debauchery.
Yet Mrs. Hazel, she just smiles at Perkins and says the thugs are all talk and no action. She tells them they ain't coming into Colored Town. And they don't. They break off. But the message was sent.
Loud and clear, and the tension doesn't let up. Perkins finally gets to his grandmother's house, which should be a sanctuary.
He finds her on the couch, reading Proverbs, her face alight with joy.
But he can't share that peace. He breaks.
He collapses, runs to her, falls to his knees, and just weeps this torrent of tears, letting out all that pent-up emotion. He literally can't speak about what he's seen.
And just then, his Aunt Bessie May comes in from the kitchen, happy, smiling.
And confirms the lie. She says Pastor Jackson had just left, and that Jonah is safe in the juvenile detention center. Her innocence just twists the knife for Perkins.
And this brings us to the core revelation of the whole narrative, the thing that connects everything.
The reason there's no help coming.
Right. Perkins knows the secret, this hidden family tie that makes the whole system a closed loop.
And what is that connection?
That the town's highest spiritual authority, Pastor Jackson,
And its highest legal authority, the sheriff.
were of the same blood, born of the same mother.
They're brothers. The church and the law are literally family, conspiring together.
Which means there is nowhere to turn. And it confirms the real gruesome truth they're covering up about Jonah. He wasn't sent to a detention center.
No. The text is brutal. He had fallen prey to the mob. He had been tortured, mutilated, presented as sacrifice to the thing that hungered in the town square.
His blood and his agony are literally feeding that truth. The racial violence isn't random, it's a ritual.
A ritual? And Perkins knows exactly how the cover-up will work.
He can see it playing out. The pastor will be back in a week or so, looking sad, explaining that Jonah got sick with, a malady, perhaps pneumonia. It's the perfect, clean deception.
And the horror of that is that the institutions meant to protect the community are the very things feeding its darkest appetites.
Absolutely. So right after this devastating realization, Perkins is told he has to be baptized the next day. Bessie May says it's something the pastor and the sheriff discussed.
Which forces him to question everything. What good is faith? He thinks about how the Bible has been used to chastise, enslave, condemn, and abuse.
And he concludes it lacks real power. His friends, Kevin and Silas, they're unbaptized and they're fine. So if the church can't protect you, what can?
And that's when the puzzle pieces of the folk horror really start to snap into place for him.
His mind goes to the local conjure woman.
Old Granny Hagen. He remembers seeing Jonah trip and fall right at her feet, and someone shouting that Jonah had been overshadowed.
Doomed by the shadow of death. It's pure folklore, and Granny Hagen is the embodiment of that. Lives in a shack by the swamp, has a black cat named Satan.
Or Nigger Man.
Right. But Perkins realizes she's not a lone operator. She's part of a network. He connects her to a memory of the Louisiana witch.
And this witch is powerful. She also has a cane, a black hound named Dagon. But the text says even wealthy white people pay her offers of worship and obedience.
That's a key detail, isn't it? It suggests a whole parallel power structure that exists outside the racial hierarchy. This magic is real and it's respected, feared even.
And Perkins realizes the source of their shared power, the common link.
The artifact they both carry.
The walking stick, a gnarled stick made from the branch of a tree.
Not just any tree.
But the tree. The bleak sentinel from the town square.
Yes, that's the convergence. The physical source of the conjure women's magic is the very same tree that symbolizes the town's racial terror. The resin on their sticks is the same sap-like coating.
And if you want to tap into that power, the price is steep.
It's not paid in coin?
It's paid in blood. You sign a parchment, you have to perform an act for the conjure woman, and if you run, they find your bloated corpse in the swamp.
It's an absolute binding and lethal contract. So you have young Perkins, just a kid, holding this impossible secret about a conspiracy and a ritual murder.
And he decides he has to act. He has to protect the one person he can, Ms. Hazel.
His plan is... it's desperate. He's going to try to use his baptism as cover, maybe get his friend Kevin baptized with him for protection.
But his real goal, his primary action, is incredibly risky.
He's going to steal the cane.
Right. He believes if he can take that stick, that piece of the tree, he can make the conjure woman powerless. He can make her shadow inert.
He's choosing to fight magic with theft, to fight one dark power by trying to disarm another.
So the narrative just weaves these three threads together perfectly. You have the daily grind of segregation and racial abuse,
layered on top of this high-level institutional conspiracy between the sheriff and the pastor.
and it's all powered by this ancient, terrifying folk horror of the tree and the cane. Every single avenue for safety has been cut off.
If you take a step back, the text creates this world where official power and supernatural evil aren't just related, they're fundamentally intertwined. They're feeding off the same source. The real horror is that the people you're supposed to trust are the high priests of the whole vile ritual.
And that leaves you, the listener, with young Perkins, a boy carrying this immense darkness, who decides to engage directly with the magic he fears to protect the one person he cares about. So here's a thought to leave you with. If power in this world really flows from blood, whether it's the blood spilled at the lynching tree or the blood signed on the parchment, what kind of ritual must Perkins perform to survive? And what price will he ultimately have to pay?